Hello there, and welcome to the TTP Field Manual podcast. Throughout the month of December, we will be releasing a series of character dossiers for our Advent calendar project that we call Final Days. This is one of them. These shorter episodes will be each spotlighting a very specific character from across the lore and the tabletop of Warhammer 40k. The episodes will be very casual, a bit of an overview of the characters' personalities, what they've done in the lore, and a little bit about what they do on the tabletop. We wanted to do this as a bit of an easy listening, casual love for the hobby, just to round out the year. We hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for listening, and happy holidays. Brothers, welcome to the feast. Tell me, which among you will be the first course? Is it you, Johnny? Are you going to be my first course today?
Oh my god, what are we talking about? This doesn't sound like a Joshy quote.
That doesn't sound like a Joshy quote, does it?
So chaotic.
So chaotic. But what part of chaos?
Well, if we're talking about blood feasts, there's a couple of potential options. Are we finally discussing our scarred man? Vashtor. We already did Vashtor.
Oh, whoops, I'm on the wrong script then, Johnny. Quick. It's Lucius the Eternal. There we go.
We're finally talking about Lucy, are we?
We're talking about old Lucy Goosey.
What a character.
Yeah, in preparation for this episode, I was at me work Christmas party last night drinking, so I might sound a little hoarse. But that's okay, because this is for Slaanesh.
So going to excess is perfect.
No, I was home by 10:30, not very excessive. Oh, mate. You know what, Johnny?
What?
I don't like Lucius very much. He's a bit of a cunt, you know?
Mate, we knew that from the first couple of novels in the HH world, right? He's always kind of a stuck-up turd.
Yes, and researching for this didn't change me on that. But that's okay, because that's the appeal of him. You're not really probably meant to like him.
No, you're not.
So, Lucius the Eternal, this episode, we can even consider this maybe a little bit of a side piece to our book club episodes that we did earlier in the year, specifically Fulgrim and Angel Exterminatus, where dude is a often POV character in those novels.
And getting up to some stuff.
Yeah, and then you're like, well, you can do him for Final Days. And I'm like, yeah, all right, bet. And here we are. So, Lucius the Eternal, favoured champion of Slaanesh, an egotistical prick, and an expert duelist and swordsman. That's his shtick. Lucius started life as a very capable young fellow, able to pick up various talents, master most skills. He would eventually gain sponsors for his particular style of swordsmanship and just be put on display. You know, he would be taking up students, but wouldn't be a very good teacher. You know, he was egotistical. He would do such sadistic things as he would kill individuals that he would claim to have been beggars that assaulted him. When he was teaching, he would accidentally scar his students, maybe even cutting off a finger or slashing an eye. He's always been a dick.
Yep.
And at some point took on someone a little out of his league. He himself got a little slashed up, but he still won the fight overall. And then a nearby Emperor's Children's like, yeah, he'll do. He's pretty good at fighting. Idiot. Don't take that guy. Leave him there in the street. Don't induct him into the Emperor's Children because he'll become a turd. Ha.
Even more of a turd.
So when in the Emperor's Children, he was quite a proud member of the Legion. People would see him as a little bit temperamental, bit childish, sometimes foolish. He had a bestie, of course, as we know, old Saul Tarvitz. And Mr. Lucius would actually admit on occasion to having these sort of negative character traits and would start to become a little bit course-corrected by Saul's presence. You know, Saul was like a bit of a brother and a pseudo-mentor figure to Lucius, you know, helping him to be well-respected and command with a bit more of a stoicism to it. All those kind of nice things you would hope is your leader, not someone who slices off people's fingers in a duel.
Or who cuts their face for fun.
Yeah, who would do that? That sounds like a silly thing to do. But when we actually meet Lucius in the Heresy, he's like in the first book. He and Saul Tarvitz of the Emperor's Children buddy up with Garviel Loken and his mates when they're on the world of murder, fighting off those big mega arachnids. You remember that one, eh?
Sure do. Yep.
Sure do. And because Lucius would be friendly with Saul, he would be quite rebellious to other members of the Emperor's Children leadership, such as Lord Commander Eidolon. When push came to shove, and the Emperor's Children were trying to decide who's a loyalist to the Imperium and who should be sent to Istvan III for a bit of an ambush, they thought Lucius was one such person to send down there. And when it became apparent that it was a big trap to kill off the less needed members of the Legion, Lucius was like, excuse me? Me? You're going to get rid of me? You don't want me? Me. Best swordsman Lucius. Me.
Yeah, it's kind of hilarious how, cocky he is. He's just like, what do you mean I'm not good enough?
Yeah, he was the one who got on the horn with the Emperor's Children traders and was like, what can I do to not be caught up in all of this? Because I think you made a mistake. I'm kind of leaning towards your way of thinking, traitorous friends. Which was mainly him trying to just save his own bacon, not necessarily siding one way or the other. But to do so, he basically needed to create an opening for the traitors because, well, all the boys they sent down were actually starting to unify into quite an effective defensive front.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, they were. And Lucius was beside himself that his good buddy Saul Tarvitz was getting a lot of the recognition. He couldn't even be seeing past himself that Saul was doing a good thing by rallying all the various troops, hunkering down, creating an effective resistance. He couldn't even accept that. He couldn't even believe that he wasn't the one doing the defensive, leadering. He's just such a douche. But
so up himself.
Yeah, he's so effective in combat, though. At some point, there was another captain who was on the field. Captain Solomon Demeter, my friend. Solomon Demeter, another of the Emperor's Children captains, a person who in the Book of Fulgrim is a POV character and was not present for a lot of the overall corrupting of the Legion by the old snake people. And so he was sent to Istvan III with Saul Tarvitz and all the rest. And Solomon Demeter was quite wounded by all the various fighting. And this was around when Lucius started to stage his coup. He would instigate a ambush in the loyalist Emperor's Children by starting to fight them himself. And then when old Captain Demeter arrives, Lucius is like, hey, they're attacking. The traitors have broke through. Help me. And then once he and Demeter killed them all, Lucius was like, psych, it was me. And then kills Captain Demeter. And this was the moment where it was really apparent that Lucius was just out for himself. He savored that act of just being a sadistic killer, not really actually intending on just killing for killing's sake, but besting people in combat. He wanted to be the greatest swordsman of all. It didn't matter if he was killing good guys or bad guys. He wanted to just do that. But if he died here on Istvan III, he wouldn't be able to do that anymore,
Yeah, for sure.
What are your thoughts on this opening chapters of Lucius as seen across several books of the Heresy that we've actually read?
I was going to say, this feels like a recap of what we kind of already know so far, based on the books that we ourselves have read as part of the book club. It did definitely draw my ire and interest in this character as someone who somehow continues to survive no matter the odds. And when we get to later in his story, you definitely are like, why is this guy so up himself? So up himself that he ends up basically cursed.
Yeah. his sort of double-crossing and boisterous nature and real egotistical behavior throughout the rest of the heresy really does catch Slaanesh's attention. It's like, oh, this guy's pretty fun, actually. Might keep him around. But throughout the rest of the heresy, once it's all, occurring, he does appear in the novel Angel Exterminatus, which we also covered with our book club. And just before Angel Exterminatus, between Fulgrim and that novel, there is a novella that we didn't actually cover, but did read the notes of, called The Reflection Cracked. Essentially, it's him having visions of Fulgrim being possessed by the demon of the painting and all that jazz. And he actually rallies a lot of the upper command, like Fabius, Marius, to be like, I think our Primarch's in trouble. We got to strap him down and get the demon out,
Yeah.
Partway through that, he realized that this was all a ploy by Fulgrim, who had actually mentally wrestled himself back in control of his own body, which I think is a pretty weak plot point, to be honest. But either way, Fulgrim realizes Lucius's intuition and just his off-kilter way of going about things, and begins to see him as a bit of a champion of the Emperor's children. He's like, I like you, Lucius. You're really surpassing my expectations, which of course Lucius then goes off and has a wank over that. He's like, I'm so good. I'm so good. I'm the best. But then come Angel Exterminatus, he's part of boarding actions. They're fighting off the crew of the Sisypheum?
That does sound familiar.
Yeah. But then he ends up tangling a couple of times with the Raven Guard member known as Nikona Sharakin, my beloved. And
it's your guy.
Yeah. So Sharakin would get a couple of good jabs in, scar him on the cheek, for example. But then, later in the book, when they have their sort of rematch, Sharakin has that Raven Guard tendency to disappear into shadows and was able to just tempo Lucius to a T, just really locked in while Lucius is taunting him, trying to make a mockery of the situation, try and taunt him into doing a mistake, and Sharakin's just locked in. He's like, nah, man, you suck. And then manages to actually pierce both of his blades through both of his hearts. And then, by all intentions, Lucius dies in this book, only to, in the epilogue, awaken in Fabius's little med bay, being like, what happened?
Fabius doesn't let anyone die if he can help it.
Yeah, it's really sort of suggested that Fabius brought him back as opposed to what Slaanesh likes to do later on.
Yes.
But, oh my god, I found that scene so hilarious. Lucius like, I'm alive? What's going on? But it was just him picking up the Honsu vial.
Yep.
But that's not the only thing he does in the heresy, Johnny.
No, because he survived. He's got to continue, right?
He's got to do things. So after a while, he's back on his feet. He's, we're really starting to see at this point the sort of chinks in his pride, because he just got killed. He was just bested. Someone beat him in swords. And it was a freaking Raven Guard that did it. They don't even do swords usually. Are you kidding me? And so he sets out to sort of redeem himself, but in his own eyes, because, he's alive, he's there, who cares? But he himself has a bit of a hurt pride after that. And he seeks out the supposed best duelist of the Thousand Sons. I didn't realize they also do swords, but I guess everyone does swords.
They have special swords. They're called kopeshes. Thousand Sons actually do lots of swords.
All right, lots of swords it is. Big curved swords. So he comes across an individual named Hathor Mutt, who sort of seemed a bit of a Lucius-esque personality as well. So they just didn't like each other because they were kind of looking into a bit of a mirror. But
imagine. Another Lucius? Right? Ugh.
But Mutt told him of an individual named Sanact, who is that legendary swordsman. But the swordsman at this point was now on the planet of the sorcerers, Johnny.
Oh, he's in the warp.
He's in the warp.
They're in the warp.
So the Thousand Sun Seers predicted that Sanact would be defeated eventually, because Lucius is just so ambitious. He's committing to the task, right?
Yeah.
But then Lucius would actually go to the tower. He goes there, into the planet of the sorcerers, and Like they fight. They actually have this really interesting back and forth where Sanact, using his powers of being a Thousand Sun, was able to actually predict a lot of Lucius's moves, and in a weird like way would be coaching him in fighting, because he's like, no, that was not a great technique. You could have done it like this. And it's quite funny because naturally you can't tell Lucius what to do.
Nah, he doesn't like that.
So despite Sanact almost coaching him in a slightly different way of fighting, Lucius is just getting angrier and angrier. He's like, I'm the best. You can't tell me what to do. And before he delivers his killing blow to Sanact, as he's really getting into the groove, someone stops him from killing him, Jonny.
Oh.
Who would it be?
Who would it be?
Coming in with the first level reaction spell Shield is none other than Arzek Ahriman, Jonny.
It's our boy.
It's Arzek Ahriman, Jonny. And so Lucius accompanies Ahriman on the big old quest to go find all them little shards of Magnus that occurs after all that Prospero burning stuff, where Magnus fragments like kind of like a Catan shard, Catan into shards, and then they have to go and find the various pieces of this puzzle and like somehow psychically jam them back together. We'll probably talk about that another day, but they go on this sort of fetch quest of Magnus together. It's quite an interesting partnership, if you ask me. The champion would be of Tzeentch and the champion would be of Slaanesh working together. But then
seems a little sus.
Yeah, but then later on, Mr. Lucius would be trapped within what would be known as a crystal labyrinth when upon the world of Nicaea. So a crystal labyrinth is a Tzeentchian maze, for those that don't know. So it's an ever-shifting, impossible to get out of thing. So Lucius gets somewhat trapped within a crystal labyrinth. How and why isn't really all that important. But whilst within the labyrinth, he is confronted by the illusory forms of 3 individuals. Who would they be?
Hey, you keep asking these questions like you're not the one telling the story.
I think you could guess these. Who 3 individuals so far in Lucius's story might he want to try and have some sort of one-up, revenge?
Well, one is obviously Sharakan.
Yep, ding ding.
Another one will be Tarvitz.
No.
Not
quite.
Okay.
These are people that have bested him in battle.
So Garviel Loken.
Yeah, there you go. And Sanact.
All right.
The Thousand Suns guy, because he was like outmaneuvering them, yeah. So Sanact, Loken, and Sharakan, all the people that have bested him in combat came before him as illusions. Eventually, he would beat them and, have like a, yes, I'm the best. But that would kind of keep him stuck within the maze, right? As his mind starts to play tricks on him, he starts to see like reflections of his previous self before he started to do all the self-mutilations and starting to have like his armor begin to be warped by the warp. And so he's just sort of stuck there.
Back when he was a handsome man.
Like all the Emperor's children come from like a usually noble lineage, and so they're usually quite pretty because I guess selective breeding. I don't know.
Well, I guess it's more like selective choosing of warriors, right? Fulgrim's pretty up himself too, so he only takes the pretty boys.
Yeah, speaking of Fulgrim, by the end of the heresy, Fulgrim is so up himself that he's doing what he wants to do, and he sort of disappears from the whole wartime planning and staging things that one ought to do when mustering for a big old siege of terror. At the very end of the saga, I believe it's in Slaves to Darkness, Lorgar, old word-bearer boy, does this big old ritual to basically get on the horn, uses his big old warp spells, and says, all Chaos Champions muster now! And that basically like rips Fulgrim out of his pleasure palace. It manages to shatter the crystal labyrinth and gets like Lucius out, and just all these things is just like a big old rally cry. But then when people manage to find Lucius, he's surrounded by scattered limbs. Who knows who he was actually killing, but nonetheless, he was killing. And that's admittedly most of Lucius up until like the Siege of Terror stuff, which I'm not 100% sure on what he does within it, but if it's Emperor's Children, probably a lot of nasty stuff.
I mean, that's Emperor's Children.
Yep. Post Heresy, however, it's a lot of like little engagements. Lucius suffers a little bit from that lack of lore that a lot of characters do get. A lot of his lore and why people tend to like him is because you have several novels of the heresy where you get to know him. But there are things, like in the post-heresy, when Fulgrim and the Emperor's Children and all that are in the war, they sometimes get bored, you know? They got to do some big old fighting games, some gladiatorial brawls, you know? There was a particular Lord Commander named Sirius who was none pleased with how much fame and power and following Lucius was gaining. And so he challenges Lucius to a duel. And there's this really cool image where Sirius has this huge, like, polearm, like, glaive weapon that has just phenomenal reach. It's several feet long. And Lucius has a hard time outmaneuvering it because it's all sweeping attacks. Sirius would actually kill Lucius in this gladiatorial game because as Lucius goes in for a killing blow, in a quick like flick of the wrist, Sirius basically grabs him and impales him, is what I believe happens. But either way, Sirius is victorious. But he's so pleased with himself. And that's when this curse of Slaanesh really begins to take hold. Slaanesh is like, no, not my favorite CUNT. Let's bring him back. And so over the next like days and weeks, Sirius, who is a really pretty man with long silver hair and perfect features, starts to lose those. The hair starts to fall out. His skin begins to wrinkle. He gets really sick. His actual like armor set starts to have faces begin to warp into it. As time goes on, he starts to notice that someone's poking through him, if you will. On one final night of big ol' screaming, Sirius was no more, set to being just another of those faces in the armor, as then his form has been completely transformed into that of Lucius.
Ugh. That's a hell of a way to go.
Yeah. From being just sick and withered to being forcibly turned inside out into somebody else, you yourself becoming none other than a moaning, screaming face in the armor you used to wear. And so anytime someone kills Lucius and has some like pleasure or pride from doing such a thing, Lucius ends up coming back. And not even Necrons are immune to such a thing.
Wait, what?
Yeah, right. So there was a Necron warrior known as the Phasing Sword that managed to beat Lucius in battle, probably because he was phasing a lot. But the Phasing Sword would beat Lucius, move on with his life. But because he's the Phasing Sword, I'm sure he was quite pleased he killed someone else. And then the Necrodermis starts to do the serious thing where like limbs and faces and stuff start to push their way from the inside out. And the Phasing Sword would then become Lucius. Not Necrodermis, just sort of being like swapseed.
Yeah. Does that mean there's a random Necron face in amongst all those faces?
I would assume so.
I wonder if they put that on the old model or the new model.
Oh, we'll have to zoom in and have a look, eh?
Do a deep dive into the model to see if there's a Necron head.
Let's have a look. Looking for a Necron head in the armor set. Admittedly, the armor does not have that many faces.
I think the old one definitely did. It was more of that, like, yeah, the new one really doesn't have.
It's more fleshy, though. The old one had a lot more fleshy faces, though, whereas at least the new one actually looks like it's in the armor.
Yeah, for sure.
Anywho, so this happens over and over again. Lucius will either win his fight against the champion of X conflict or Y faction, or he doesn't, and then becomes them later in life. There's a relatively, clutching at straw narrative that I've heard circling around here and there, that like once he stood on a mine and blew up, but then the lowly imperial worker who in the forges had to build the mine, who took pride in his work, started to become Lucius because his was the mine that killed him, and he's really proud of his work. So the pride was like that little fishing lure for the curse to take hold. I think that's a stretch, but it just goes to show what Slaanesh can do.
Yeah, no, that definitely is a stretch.
But this curse of Slaanesh goes a couple of directions. Sure, it consumes the person who had a victory, but it also keeps putting cracks into Lucius's sanity because the dude is losing. He's coming back, but he's losing. His sanity and pride is constantly cracking because sure, he's dying, and like usually when you die, you don't have to think anymore. But like he's being rebirthed, knowing that he's being rebirthed like from losing, from being killed. And he's the best swordsman, right? But he just died. And so as time goes on, he's just becoming more and more unhinged, a wild card, random variable. As well, here's the real kicker, Jonny. What would be probably the worst part of this whole ordeal for Lucius?
I mean, what would be the worst part? The fact that he just cannot win these duels? Like, it just keeps being people who one-up him?
Sure, but the people that one-up him, he becomes. He cannot get his revenge. They no longer exist.
Oh,
he can't prove to himself that he's better than them because they're no longer there.
Oh, no. That would definitely weigh on Lucius way too hard.
Absolutely. And yes, a lot of his little engagements post-heresy are just classic things that we've gone over before, like 13th Black Crusade, he was there. Aaron Dominatus, he's doing stuff. He would do the whole like Battle of Scalathrax and the Battle of Thessala, like those early like post Siege of Terror, Chaos God Legion fighting in the warp stuff, like Civil War stuff, all that infighting of chaos. He would be present and like leading the charge of the Emperor's Children. But over time, he would, of course, start to accrue followers and like-minded individuals, and he would actually form his own Emperor's Children warband known as the Faultless.
The Faultless.
Yeah, the Faultless. Eventually, the Faultless would, start to suffer losses and stuff, so he would go to his best buddy Fabius for reinforcements, which I think is a bad idea, but hey.
Never a good idea.
It's never a good idea or a bad idea. It's just what one has to do sometimes. But despite all of this, Lucius still would be considered Fulgrim's champion, to the point where, the whole Fabius Bile cloned Fulgrim moment?
Yes.
Yeah, Fulgrim employed Lucius to go kill the clone. Imagine. You're like, I love this guy so much, I'm going to hire him to kill me. But like, not me.
Not me, just other me.
Just other me. Emperor's Children, man. But later on, certain individuals such as Lord Commander Eidolon would still have this sort of dislike of the whole Slaaneshi murder-fucky way of doing things that the Emperor's Children would become, and has a bit of that Abaddon-esque energy of like, oh, this sucks. I am going to rally all the more sane elements of this army into being a solid battle force of old, to the point where it's actually Eidolon that is most in cahoots with Abaddon of all the Emperor's Children. Eidolon would form what's known as the Phoenix Conclave, which is a collection of all the generals of the Emperor's Children that he can summon to discuss matters of warfare, which includes Fulgrim, includes himself, Lucius, Marius, all those individuals. So Lucius is around. He's a champion. He's on the court.
I mean, that's good to know. I don't know if I agree, but sure.
So that's more or less like Lucius. The stuff he's doing at the moment is just classic EC warband stuff, going across the galaxy, fighting people, doing Slaaneshi stuff. And there's nothing too in particular that he's up to nowadays. but I can tell you a little bit about his panoply of war, if you'd like.
Oh, yeah. One question. Was he much involved in the recent Fulgrim lore with, Fulgrim kind of coming back out of hiding? Or is there just absolutely nothing for Lucius yet?
Are you referencing that Fulgrim novel by, was it Jude Reed?
Oh, whatever. The most recent Fulgrim novel, yes.
You mean the one that's actually a Black Templar's POV?
So just say no next time.
Yeah. So I haven't read Fulgrim the Perfect Son by Jude Reed, but it's a Black Templar POV where they have to sort of go against the plans of Fulgrim and the Emperor's children of the era. But I'm fairly certain that Fulgrim isn't even really a POV character in that novel. I could be wrong.
All right. Damn.
And there's another novel recently called Renegades, or it's part of the Renegades series. It's the Lords of Access, but that follows another warband and their leader Xantine. So it's not Lucius either.
All right.
He does have a novel that came out semi-recently called The Faultless Blade, which is his own novel. It came out in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
It follows him doing his stuff, which I imagine is his warband and his just, like, this chapter, I killed this person, is what I presume.
This chapter, I died to this person.
Yes. But Lucius, I find really fun in what his armaments are.
Go on then.
So his armor is called the Armor of Shrieking Souls.
Ick.
He's able to actually draw from the many, if not hundreds or thousands of souls inside his armor to do an outwards scream from his armor. And supposedly, his armor is so corrupted by the imprisoned souls and the fleshiness of it that his actual, like, suit of power armor is basically hidden under a writhing skin of flesh. Ugh.
Icky wicky.
But he can just go from his armor, which sounds terrifying. You'll notice in his new model, he's got a big old bunch of drugs on the top of his pack.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a Comorite stim pack.
This is the drugs.
Yeah, it's from Comora, though.
Yep. Which he probably got that off our friend Fabius, right?
Yeah. So it was implanted into his flesh by Fabius.
Yeah.
But he won it from the gladiatorial arenas of the Drakari.
Oh. Okay, so he won it and got Fabius to install. For some reason, I just assumed Fabius's connections to Comora were just the only reason why he had it.
Nah. His sword. Do you know which sword he wields?
Is it the silver blade that Fulgrim used?
Yeah, which sword in particular? Fulgrim's used
the possessed
few.
One?
It is the possessed one.
The original one, right? The lair blade? Yeah.
The one that did it all. That did the greater demon body hopping thing and was on the Leia temple at the start of Fulgrim that he picks up. He's like, oh, this is nice.
The entire reason for Fulgrim's demise.
Isn't it also the blade that Remembrancer was impaled with?
It sure is.
Oh, man.
This sword has been around people's stomach areas.
Yeah, this sword's a scary one. One more piece of war gear to tell you about. His lash. His lash of torment.
His whip.
Look closely at the whip.
I am.
Do you notice any sort of him holding it?
I mean, he kinda is, but at the same time, it seems to be part of him.
It's true. It has absorbed the hand of Lucius and has directly fused itself to his spinal cord.
It's a tentacle.
It's actually a demonette.
Oh, it's a demonette.
The whip is a demonette. Or
That's
a bound
adorable.
demonette. The demonette actually moves various barbed hooks along the whip.
Yep.
The whip itself is sentient and moves independently of Lucius. So he can fight with his sword whilst the whip just does its own thing.
That's so cool.
the whip will wrap and constrict its target like a snake, and then just moving those barbs around itself.
Man, this is such a cool model. The more you look at it, the more details just like pop out.
Furthermore, this lash actually psychically projects the pain and fear and whatever else of its victims to nearby individuals.
Oh yeah, so it gives battle shock
people.
tests.
Yeah, so if people are around, far out. If people, oh man, if people are,
I had to.
11th edition, please change it.
Please fix battle shock.
If people are nearby Lucius on the battlefield and that whip is wrapping around somebody, and the person being wrapped about is like, ow, then everyone nearby is like, hee, I just felt that, which is a great Emperor's Children tool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I am really upset, though, that he doesn't do battle shock shenanigans.
I wasn't going to say anything. I wanted you to realize that and be like, oh, damn it.
Damn it. They missed it. What a terrible, terrible rule they could have added.
Yeah, right. Lucius on the tabletop, though. Hey, breaks the mold. He's T5. He's a 4-up invulnerable save man with 6 wounds.
With a feel no pain.
With lone operative. You can lead him with flawless blades, but aside from getting their ability put onto him, which is like more guaranteed wound roll, I think you could just easily run him on his own, because if he's not leading a unit, he gains fights first because he's got that hubris, you know? Only I can do the good fighting. And if you're fighting characters, monsters, or weirdly enough, walkers, you can reroll fully hits and wounds. Ugh.
It is really weird that Lucius is a leader character based on, the lore, but the fact that they only buff him and he gives them absolutely nothing makes perfect sense.
Sure does.
And the fact that if he is leading them and they all die around him, he's like, cool, now I don't have to worry about hitting them. I can fight you properly.
Oh, yeah. Is he the most expensive of the Astartes champions?
At 150 points, probably.
Is Typhus more? Let's double check. But yeah, he is the assassin. Holy.
He also might be one of the more expensive, lone op space marines as well.
Typhus is 100. What's Ahriman?
Ahriman's only 100.
Lucius, pop off, queen.
Lucius is super expensive, but I mean, in saying that, Emperor's Children do feel like a really good mix of battle line and this hyper elite.
Yeah, they're a very expensive army points-wise. So you got to make sure you're hitting your targets at the right moment and guaranteeing a kill.
Yeah.
Those 150 points for Lucius the Eternal. Oh,
I mean, they do have 2 battle line units in the Infractors and Tormentors, and they are very good at a good price point. But yeah, outside of those 2 units, super elite, this army.
I love it. Reading into Lucius made me go through the entirety of the datasheets and detachments for Emperor's Children again after our episode earlier in the year where we did that, our first Codex review. And I was like, oh man, they're actually pretty fun. And not gonna lie, they're pretty fun.
Yeah, I just have one big flaw with their Codex, which I discussed in the middle of the review, and that is the lack of Chaos Space Marine support. They lost so many of the key units that other ones get. No Predators, no Vindicator, no Forge Fiend. It's just really weird that these all disappeared out of their Codex.
Yeah, it sure is, mate. But you can listen to more of our thoughts on that in that Emperor's Children faction reaction video.
Sure can.
Probably should wrap this one up, though. Went a bit long, but there's a lot to talk about with the Champion of Slaanesh, I suppose.
Right, well, that's Lucius.
Last question, actually.
Yeah.
Last question. What do you think of him as a whole, now that we're looking at him from outside of those individual heresy novels? How do you like Lucius?
I don't, and I think that's on purpose.
That's the point.
I honestly, based on the kind of cult following that Lucius has outside of the game, and how kind of important they make his character in the first couple of heresy books, I'm shocked at how little lore he actually has. he definitely felt like a bigger character, but I guess with the launch of Emperor's Children only being this edition, we can probably expect a little bit more in the future.
Yeah,
and
a little bit more.
With Games Workshop actually pushing the narrative forward in the recent years, there's a good chance that, more lore for some of these characters is on the horizon. And by the horizon, I mean, the next 10 years.
Yeah, I imagine Lucius is just one that hasn't gotten his time to shine just yet.
Yeah.
That model is fantastic.
That model is very nice.
Cool, man. All right, let's send it.
Cool, my dude. Enjoy it, everyone. We'll see you around.
Thanks, Johnny. Thanks, listeners. See you soon. Hey, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, there's plenty more on the way, so stay tuned. If you can, it would mean a lot to us if you could share this with friends. People you know will probably enjoy the episodes that we're putting out. If you are enjoying the Field Manual podcast, if you've been really enjoying these episodes and want to share your thoughts with us, maybe have some ideas about what you'd like us to cover next, jump onto our Discord. There'll be a link in the bio of this episode. It's a fun little community we're hoping to grow, where people can come in, share their work in progress photos, have a chat about the hobbies, chat with us, we'll chat with you. We chat about our upcoming book clubs and things of that nature. Love to see you there. Thank you very much.